The departure board flickered with delays. A storm somewhere over the Atlantic had thrown the entire schedule into chaos. Voices overlapped. Suitcases rolled across polished floors. A baby cried near gate 22. The smell of burnt coffee drifted through the terminal. In the middle of all that noise stood an old man. He looked out of place, long dark coat, slightly worn boots, silver hair falling loosely around his shoulders, round tinted glasses hiding tired eyes. He held a wrinkled boarding pass in one hand, turning it over as if the letters refused to stay still. He stepped toward the self-check. Kiosk, it beeped red. He tried again. Red. A few people in line began to sigh loudly. Behind him, a group of college-age travelers exchanged glances. One of them smirked. Maybe it's past his bedtime, someone whispered. A soft laugh. The old man adjusted the screen again, squinting. His fingers trembled slightly as he pressed the wrong button. Red. Now the laughter wasn't quiet. A woman crossed her arms. Some people shouldn't travel alone at that age, another voice chimed in, louder this time. Does he even know where he is? The old man exhaled slowly. No anger. No reaction. Just a long breath that seemed heavier than the moment deserved. He stepped aside, letting others pass him. No one thanked him. The group moved forward, still watching him like he was part of the entertainment. One of them subtly lifted a phone, camera angled just enough. Content, he muttered under his breath. The old man walked toward the service counter. His pace was slow but steady, dignified. Excuse me, he said politely to the airline attendant. I believe I may need some assistance. The attendant barely looked up. Sir, if you can't operate the kiosk, you'll have to wait. We're dealing with priority passengers right now. A few people behind him chuckled again. The old man nodded once. He didn't argue, didn't defend himself. He simply stepped back, standing alone near a pillar beneath the glowing departure, bored, lights reflecting faintly off his tinted lenses. A security officer nearby began watching him carefully. One of the laughing passengers leaned toward his friend and said, just loud enough to carry, someone should probably escort him out before he misses story time. More laughter, and this time, the security officer started walking toward him. The security officer stopped a few feet away from the old man. Sir, he said, firm but controlled. Is there a problem? The terminal noise seemed to lower just enough for nearby passengers to listen. The old man turned slowly. Up close, his face carried deep lines, not weakness, but years, experience. His glasses reflected the bright ceiling lights. I'm simply trying to find the correct gate, he replied calmly. His voice was steady, low, unexpectedly clear. The officer glanced at the boarding pass in his hand. This flight's international. You sure you're in the right terminal? A snicker came from behind. Yeah, Grandpa, this isn't bingo night, one of the young men called out. A few people laughed again. Louder now, encouraged. The old man didn't react. He held out his boarding pass respectfully. The officer scanned it quickly. The system lagged because of the storm delays. He frowned at the screen. It says here you checked in late, the officer said. You might have missed the window. I arrived 2 hours early, the old man answered. The airline attendant from earlier leaned over the counter. Sir, we've been calling passengers for that flight for the past 20 minutes. If you didn't respond, that's not on us. Her tone was sharp, impatient. One of the young travelers stepped closer, pretending to be helpful. Maybe he didn't hear it, he said with fake sympathy. You know how it is at that age. Another phone lifted, this time openly recording. The old man's hand tightened slightly around the paper. Not shaking now, steady. A woman passing. I whispered, this is uncomfortable, but she didn't intervene. No one did. The officer shifted his stance. Sir, I'm going to need to verify your identification. There it was. The unspoken assumption, confusion, incompetence, maybe worse. The young group sensed escalation. Oh, one of them murmured dramatically. Plot twist. The old man slowly reached inside his coat. For a brief second, the officer tensed. He pulled out a worn leather wallet. Nothing threatening, just careful movements. As he opened it, one of the mockers laughed again. Watch it be expired. The humiliation wasn't loud anymore. It was heavier, subtle glances, raised eyebrows. The quiet agreement of a crowd deciding someone didn't belong. The officer held out his hand. ID, sir. The old man looked at him for a long moment. Not angry, not embarrassed. Measured. Then he placed a passport into the officer's palm. The officer opened it casually at first, and that's when his expression changed. The officer's casual expression tightened. Not shock. Not yet. Just hesitation. He glanced, down at the passport again, then back at the man standing in front of him. The photo was older, darker hair, round glasses, a face the world once knew instantly. The officer looked unsure. Behind him, the laughter was still lingering, unaware that something had shifted. Is there a problem? The airline attendant asked impatiently. The officer didn't answer right away. Instead, he studied the old man more carefully now. The long silver hair, the tinted glasses, the faint outline of a cross hanging beneath his shirt collar. And then he noticed something else, ink barely visible beneath the cuff of the man's sleeve. An old tattoo, faded but deliberate. Not decorative, personal. The officer swallowed. The group of young travelers grew restless. What's taking so long? One of them muttered. Does he even know how to spell his own name? Another chuckle. But the old man didn't flinch. If anything, he seemed distant now, detached from the noise around him. Softly, almost too quietly to notice, he began humming. It wasn't loud enough to draw attention, just a melody under, his breath low, gravelly, familiar. A baggage handler walking past slowed his steps. He turned his head slightly. Wait. That voice. The melody carried a tone that didn't belong to weakness. It carried history, stages, crowds, stadium lights cutting through smoke. The handler frowned, studying the old man's profile. The officer flipped the passport page again, reading more carefully this time. Date of birth, place of origin, full legal, name. His eyes widened a fraction. He looked up. Sir, have you traveled through here before? The old man gave a small nod. Once or twice. The answer held something layered, almost dry humor but restrained. Behind them, the phone cameras were still pointed. One of the young men zoomed in. This is going viral, he whispered. The baggage handler stepped closer now, heart beating. Slightly faster, he leaned toward the officer. Can I see that? He asked quietly. The officer hesitated, then angled the passport just enough. The handler's breath caught, his face drained of color. He looked at the old man again, this time not seeing age, but recognition breaking through memory. He leaned closer to the officer and whispered 2 words. The officer's posture changed instantly, not aggressive anymore, not suspicious, alert, careful. Behind them, the mocking continued, unaware they were seconds away from becoming the story instead of the audience. The old man adjusted his glasses slowly. The humming stopped. Silence stretched. And then the officer closed the passport gently. This time, with respect. The officer held the passport differently now, not loosely, not casually, both hands. The surrounding noise of the terminal felt distant, like it had been pushed underwater. The departure board flickered again. A boarding call echoed somewhere far off. No one near Gate 22 heard it. The baggage handler leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. Read it again. The officer's eyes dropped to the page. He cleared his throat. Passengers nearby sensed the shift. The laughter faded into murmurs. Even the young men recording lowered their voices, curiosity replacing mockery. The officer looked up at the old man. Sir, Can you confirm your full name for me? The old man met his gaze calmly. John Michael Osbourne. The words landed softly, but they hit like thunder. The baggage handler exhaled sharply. That's him. One of the young travelers blinked. Who? The officer turned the passport outward slightly, not fully exposed, but enough for the handler to see clearly. The photo, the name, the birthplace, Birmingham, England. The handler stepped back as if gravity had shifted. No way, he muttered under his breath. A woman nearby, mid-scroll on her phone, looked up. What's going on? The officer's tone changed completely. Mr. Osbourne, I apologize for the inconvenience. The use of the surname carried weight now. Recognition. Formality. The group of young men exchanged confused looks. Wait, one of them said slowly. Osbourne? Another frowned. Like. The baggage handler didn't wait. He pulled out his own phone with trembling fingers and typed quickly. A younger image appeared on the screen. Dark hair, intense eyes, round glasses, a stage bathed in purple light. He held the screen up subtly beside the old man's profile. The resemblance was undeniable. Older, weathered, but unmistakable. One of the young traveler's faces drained of color. No, he whispered. The officer straightened immediately. I'm very sorry, Mr. Osbourne. There seems to have been a misunderstanding. The airline attendant's expression froze. Osbourne? She repeated quietly. The humming from earlier echoed in someone's memory. That voice. That tone. A name began spreading through the small crowd in cautious whispers. Is that? It can't be. Wait, it is. The young man, still holding his phone, slowly lowered it. His earlier smirk vanished. The old man adjusted his coat slightly. He didn't smile, didn't gloat, didn't correct anyone. He simply stood there, calm, steady, as the atmosphere transformed around him, respect replacing ridicule, silence replacing laughter. The officer handed the passport back carefully. Welcome, Mr. Osbourne. And suddenly, everyone knew exactly who they had been laughing at. The energy in the terminal didn't just change, it collapsed. Conversation stalled mid-sentence. The rolling sound of suitcases seemed louder now because no one near the gate was speaking. Even the storm updates over the intercom felt distant. The group that had been laughing stood frozen. One of them blinked rapidly, as if waiting for someone to say it was a joke. It's not him, one whispered weakly. It just can't be. But it was. The baggage handler stepped forward, voice respectful now. Sir, I grew up listening to you. The old man gave him a small nod. Not theatrical, not proud, just acknowledgement. The airline attendant, who minutes earlier had dismissed him, straightened her uniform. Her tone softened instantly. Mr. Osbourne, we sincerely apologize for the delay. We can arrange priority boarding immediately. Priority. The word hung in the air like a quiet confession. The same people who had treated him like a burden were now rearranging themselves around him carefully, as if afraid to make another mistake. One of the young men glanced at his phone screen. Was still recording. Slowly, almost panicking, he stopped the video. Another quickly began scrolling, searching images, old concert footage, interviews, that iconic voice, the glasses, the hair, his face drained of color. Oh my God, he muttered. The loudest one, the one who made the bedtime joke, swallowed hard. He took a small step back, distancing himself from his own words as if they belonged to someone else. A woman who had laughed earlier adjusted her scarf and avoided eye contact. No one found it funny now. The security officer cleared his throat. We'll personally escort you to the correct gate, sir. The old man looked at him steadily. I know where it is, he replied. Calm. Controlled. No edge. That somehow made it heavier. A few passengers nearby began whispering more openly. I saw him live in '82. He looks different. Of course he does. It's been decades. Someone farther back raised their phone, but this time not to mock, to capture proof, to show someone later. The baggage handler spoke again, hesitant. Sir, would you like us to clear some space? The old man shook his head gently. No need. He adjusted the strap of his small travel bag over his shoulder. It was simple. Worn. Nothing flashy. Nothing that screamed legend. The group who had laughed now stood in uncomfortable silence, their earlier confidence gone. Finally, one of them stepped forward slightly. Sir? His voice cracked. We didn't know. The old man looked at him for a long moment. Not angry, not amused, just observant. That's usually the case, he said quietly. The words weren't sharp. They were truthful, and that truth stung more than anger ever could. No speech about fame, no reminder of awards, no mention of sold-out arenas, just presence. Years of it. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. An airport worker nearby whispered to a colleague, I can't believe we almost escorted him out. Almost. That word spread through the air like a chill. The old man began walking toward the gate. This time the crowd moved aside without being asked, not because of celebrity, but because something deeper had settled over them. Embarrassment, recognition, perspective. The storm outside continued raging against the runway windows. Inside Gate 22, however, there was only one thing louder than the wind, the silence of people realizing they had misjudged a legend. The old man walked with steady steps, no dramatic pause, no look back, just movement. The terminal seemed quieter now, though the same announcements still played and the same suitcases still rolled across the floor. The difference wasn't in the environment, it was in the people. Eyes followed him, not in mockery, not in curiosity alone, in reflection. The young man who had recorded earlier kept his phone lowered. His thumb hovered over the delete button. He hesitated. He remembered his words, old and confused. Probably missed the retirement home. Jokes. Harmless, he had thought. But now they echoed differently. The old man approached the security checkpoint again, not as someone being inspected, but as a passenger continuing his journey. The officer from before straightened immediately. Mr. Osbourne, he said, voice formal. Your gate has been updated. We can escort you. The old man shook his head. No need. The officer blinked, uncertain. It's no trouble. I know the way. It was simple, not dismissive, not arrogant, just final. The security officer swallowed and stepped aside. Of course, sir. Nearby, the airline attendant adjusted the scanner as if preparing for VIP service. Her earlier impatience was gone. I apologize again for the misunderstanding, she said. The old man nodded once. I appreciate that. Nothing more. No lecture. No demand for special treatment. That restraint made the atmosphere shift again. A woman who had laughed earlier approached cautiously. Excuse me. Her voice trembled slightly. I didn't mean to. I didn't know who you were. The old man looked at her. She flinched, expecting judgment. He didn't give it. Instead, he replied softly. It happens. 2 words. Not absolution. Not condemnation. Understanding. The woman exhaled, shoulders sagging. I'm sorry. The old man nodded. Thank you. The young man with the phone finally stepped forward. His hands shook slightly. Sir, I recorded it. What I said, I shouldn't have. The old man waited. The young man continued. I was wrong. The words came out faster now, like he needed to release them. I thought it was funny. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Silence. The old man studied him. The young man braced himself. For anger. It didn't come. Instead, the old man spoke. Be careful what you laugh at. Not harsh, not cruel. Just a reminder. The young man nodded quickly. I will. He glanced at his phone again, then finally deleted the video. It vanished. No viral clip. No public humiliation, just accountability in a small private moment. The baggage handler from earlier approached with a gentle smile. "Gate 14, he confirmed. "You're all set." The old man adjusted his coat and began walking again. This time no one laughed, no one recorded, no one made comments. They simply watched, some with shame, some with respect, some with new understanding. As he passed the young man, the old man paused. The air tightened slightly. The young man swallowed. "I really am sorry," he repeated. The old man looked at him. For a moment it seemed like he might say more. Instead, he placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. A small gesture. Not grand, not theatrical, just human. The young man's eyes widened. He nodded, fighting back emotion. "Thank you." The old man removed his hand and continued toward the gate. Around him, the terminal resumed its rhythm. Announcements, footsteps, luggage wheels. But something had changed. Not loudly, not publicly, quietly. People who had witnessed the moment exchanged glances. No jokes, no smirks. A subtle understanding. We misjudged. It could have ended with anger, with confrontation, with headlines. Instead, it ended with perspective. And sometimes, that carries more weight than any viral moment ever could. The old man reached gate 14. Boarding had already begun. Passengers lined up, showing passports and scanning tickets. The atmosphere was ordinary again, the kind of mundane routine airports are built for. Except it wasn't ordinary for those who recognized him. A teenager in line whispered to his mother, "That's him." The mother glanced up, eyes widening, slightly. She recognized the profile, the glasses, the posture, the quiet presence. She nudged her son. "Be respectful. No drama. Just a lesson." The teenager lowered his gaze. The old man stepped forward in line. When it was his turn, the gate attendant straightened. "Good afternoon, Mr. Osbourne." The use of the name carried careful politeness now. He handed over his boarding pass. The scanner beeped green. Approved. The attendant smiled professionally. "Have a pleasant flight." He nodded. "Thank you." Simple. No special treatment demanded. No long speeches. Just the continuation of a journey. Behind him, a few passengers whispered, "I used to listen to his records." "Me too." Hard to believe. The old man heard them, but he didn't turn around. Legends are not built on recognition alone. They are built on moments and how people respond to them. Earlier, he had been mocked, recorded, dismissed. Now those same witnesses watched in silence, some with regret, some with admiration, some with the quiet understanding that appearances can deceive. At the edge of the boarding tunnel, he paused. The aircraft waited outside, its metal body glinting in the storm-dimmed light. He looked back at the terminal, not to address the crowd, not to demand acknowledgement, but as if observing something personal. Time, humanity, the fragile gap between judgment and understanding. Then he stepped forward, one foot into the tunnel, then the next. No applause, no viral moment, just movement toward the next chapter. Behind him, the gate attendant exhaled slowly. The teenager from earlier whispered to his mother, "Was that really him?" She nodded. Yes, and in that small acknowledgement something shifted. Respect, perspective. A lesson learned without humiliation. The old man disappeared into the boarding tunnel. The doors closed. The terminal returned to its rhythm. But for those who had witnessed it, the moment remained a quiet reminder. You never know someone's story, and sometimes the greatest strength isn't in proving who you are, but in remaining who you are, even when the world misjudges you. The plane taxied down the runway. Inside, passengers settled into their seats, fastening belts and stowing bags. The usual pre-flight hum returned, safety announcements, soft conversations, the rustle of magazines. But the atmosphere felt different, subtle, like a quiet afterthought. Some travelers scrolled their phones, searching for information. Old photos, interviews, music clips. Recognition spread in small bursts. That really was him. I can't believe we laughed. It could have ended badly. No headlines yet, no viral videos, just private realizations. The young man who had recorded earlier stared at his empty gallery. The video was gone. He exhaled. Relief. Regret. A mixture of emotions he didn't fully understand. Next to him, the older passenger who had laughed earlier avoided eye contact. Neither spoke. Sometimes understanding arrives in silence. The flight attendants moved through the cabin, checking seatbelts and offering water. Professional, routine. But one of them paused near the front, glancing toward the seat where the old man now sat by the window. He looked out at the tarmac, thoughtful, not triumphant, not bitter, just present. A stewardess hesitated before speaking. "Sir, if you need anything, please let us know." He turned slightly. "Thank you." The words carried no edge, no expectation. Gratitude. Humanity. The attendant nodded and continued down the aisle. Outside, the airport lights blurred through rain-streaked glass. The storm remained. Life continued. People would forget details over time. The delay, the misunderstanding, the moment of embarrassment. But for those who witnessed it, something lingered. A reminder that judgment is easy, understanding is harder, and dignity does not require approval. It simply exists. Ozzy Osbourne had boarded a plane like any other passenger. He had been mocked, misjudged, recognized, and ultimately treated with the respect every human deserves, not because of fame, not because of history, but because kindness matters, even in small, imperfect moments. That is the story, and that is the lesson.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Do connected with me for more content and must visit my channel OZZY'S Fictional Realm, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. See you next. Bye bye.